After a couple hundred rounds, we feel we can finally talk about the FN 509. This gun's been around for a little while now. It's not necessarily a new gun, but we were making a compensator for it, so we definitely want to talk about it. We definitely want to show why this gun is special. Talking about what makes this gun special and kind of skipping our usual format is the grip texture. I think FN did a really nice job on this grip texture. It's three different kinds of grip texture. They have this more sandpaper style up on the top where your thumb sits. Then it goes to more of a checkering. In the front and back, it kind of resembles Glock with the squares. I think they did a really nice job on this, and it feels very planted in your hand when you're shooting. It's very comfortable. It bites down firmly, but it doesn't hurt. And then where your skin will be touching it for concealed carry, it's rather smooth, so it wouldn't irritate your skin. So what kind of differentiates this gun from other striker-fired guns on the market, for me, is the grip texture. I think it's the most unique feature about this gun. Another thing that's kind of nice is it does have an ambidextrous mag release on here. My dad is a left-handed shooter, and that was always one of his biggest complaints, was the mag release. A lot of guns are starting to have this, so it's not necessarily something new, but it does make it a lot easier for left-handed shooters to pick this gun up and choose it over, let's say, like a Glock 17 or a Walther PDP. It's really nice that they threw that in there. So that's another thing that kind of differentiates the FN over some of the other striker-fired guns. Other than that, it is very similar in a lot of aspects to a lot of the guns on the market. This is really just FN throwing their hat in the ring for the common duty size striker-fired handgun. Otherwise, it's very similar to other guns on the market, just more money. This gun comes in at $930, and for this model, it feels rather expensive for what you get. This 509 is the FN 509 Tactical, so it came with the optic system, a threaded barrel, and this 24-round magazine, which is kind of comical. It is absolutely ginormous, but makes a lot of sense for competition. Not that I think this is a great competition gun bone stock. Frankly, I think there's a little bit better options. This gun's really cool. It does have a relatively high bore axis, and it is kind of expensive. You can get quite a few striker-fired guns a lot cheaper and spend more money on optics or compensators or mag extensions, things that would actually make a difference when shooting competition. But with that being said, I actually do like the gun a lot. It looks very cool. I really like the way they milled the slide on here. It has pretty generic slide cuts, but they work very well. I like how the front has angles on it, makes it look aggressive. It has this nice sweep on the left-hand side. Aesthetically, I think they did a really nice job. They also did a good job hiding the bore axis. The 509, along with the 320 and the Walther PDP, all have higher bore axis, and it's definitely more noticeable when shooting. With this gun, shooting it stock, I definitely noticed the higher bore axis. Comparing it to a Glock or a Smith & Wesson, to me, it just felt like it had a little bit more recoil. With the Herrington Arms Universal comp on there, it helped a lot with the recoil. And like I said, we are working on a compensator for this that felt phenomenal. Frankly, going from the model-specific comp that we're working on back to the Universal felt a little sad. The comp we have for this is absolutely dialed. It makes this gun shoot really flat and makes me completely forget all about the high bore axis. Like most striker-fired guns, we could throw a weapon light on here. Here we have the FDE TLR1 HL, and of course on top we're running a Holosun 508T. As usual, we usually throw that dot on most of our guns. It just works really well for us. They did offer to throw in some steel suppressor height sights, which peek up into the window nicely. For me, I don't really prefer that. I would rather just run no irons and just run a dot. I've actually never had a dot fail except for the SIG Romeo Zero dot. So any of the Holosuns, Trigicons, Delta Point Pros, I trust. I don't feel like I need backup sights. But for this case, they're not super noticeable. The irons are hanging out in the bottom of the optic, so it's not impeding much of the vision. Since this gun is kind of made for compensators and suppressors, we did throw a suppressor on there. We threw the Lone Wolf Eliminator 45 on there. Shot pretty comfortably. We threw this can on a Beretta M9A4, and it felt very gassy in the face. Had actually a little particles hitting me. Didn't have that issue that much with the FN. It shot way more comfortably. Wasn't getting gassed out. I think that has a lot to do with the firing mechanism. I think little particles were coming through the Beretta hammer assembly and hit me in the face, which was a little uncomfortable. Frankly, I think any can would have did that. It's not necessarily Lone Wolf's fault. This actually is a very nice can. It was pretty quiet for a 9mm can, and it's adaptable, so you can pull some of the baffles off and shrink this can down. Coming in at like 500 bucks, I think it's pretty affordable. Right now it's on sale for 400. Pretty awesome, honestly, for what you get. We shot on two different guns, didn't have really any reliability issues. We did have one weird hiccup with this, but I think it was a light primer strike. I don't think it had anything to do with the can. Talking about reliability, that was actually the first malfunction I think we've had with this gun. This gun got really dirty shooting it suppressed. Frankly, both of them did. And that's one thing I've noticed about this FN is you just can't get it clean. There's always carbon and unburnt gunpowder all over it. It just feels like it gets really dirty really fast, and the can only amplified that. I think that might be why we had a light primer strike. It also could have been the ammo. We've had really bad luck with AAC ammo in our striker-fired guns, so that could have been it as well. Other than that, we've got probably close to 1,000 rounds on this gun. No issues, even testing out prototype compensators and shooting this gun and getting it really hot. We've had no issues. And another thing is we haven't cleaned this gun. Close to 1,000 rounds on it. It's pretty dirty, and we have not cleaned it. Probably only have 200 rounds on it suppressed. And that's honestly where it got most of its dirtiness from, is the can itself made it much dirtier than shooting bare muzzle or comped. Comparing the FN 509 to the very famous 320 build we did with a HC 320 flat on there and an X compact slide. This gun is about the size of a full-size 320. You can see it's actually almost the same size as this comped FN. Obviously, without the comp on there, it's a little bit longer. All that being said, I think this is an appropriately sized handgun. To me, I don't think we'd have too many issues carrying this if you had the standard mag in there. Standard mags do hold 17, and you'll see that my finger does have plenty of room on here on the bottom. Would make it a little bit more difficult to carry, but I really don't think it'd be too big of a deal. One thing I do like about this gun is it definitely has a premium trigger in it. The take-up's a little bit hard. It's like stiffer than a normal trigger. And then you get to a wall, and it's got a pretty crisp break. It's not a rolling break. The reset is kind of long, but it is very tactile. It feels very good. I feel like I can shoot this gun pretty fast, especially with our prototype comp on there. And honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of this gun. I thought it was just another expensive striker fired gun. But the more I got to shoot it, especially with our prototype comp, the more I kind of really liked this gun. And honestly, when we get that comp released, this may even become my range gun or my competition gun. It just shot so flat, compensated, and I just enjoy shooting it quite a bit. Another thing to note is with that, it does have the removable back straps, so I can make it a little bit smaller in the hand, which for me, I prefer the small frames from SIG, which feels like smaller than most of the other full-size guns. The Glock and the Walther PDP, all those larger full-size striker-fired guns just feel really big in the hand, where the FN with the small back plate feels very comfortable. It's almost the perfect size for me. Like I mentioned before, something really important to me is length of pull. In order to shoot fast, I feel like it has to be the appropriate length, and the FN's got it dialed. It's very similar to the P320. It's very comfortable. So for $930, I think it's an okay buy. I definitely think it's more on the expensive side. It is nice that you get a threaded barrel. It is nice that you get the 24 round magazine, but honestly, I still feel like it's just a little bit expensive. If any other manufacturer would produce this exact same thing, I think it would be $200 cheaper. If Glock, SIG, Smith & Wesson, any of those people have comparable models, it's usually going to be cheaper than the whopping $930 of the FN 509. I feel like you're paying a little bit for the name on this one. Definitely looks cool, especially in FDE, and it runs very good, but it's definitely on the more expensive side. So if you're somebody who really likes the brand, or you really like the aesthetic of this gun, because with the grip texture and the slide cuts, it definitely looks different than a lot of striker fired guns on the market, but it's going to perform the same way. If you're more of a value person, I'd probably look at other avenues. If you're a brand specific person, or you simply care about the aesthetic, I think it's a pretty nice setup. I think it's definitely worth the money because it does have some of the features that are nice to have. And to me, aesthetic matters a lot. I'm definitely willing to pay a little bit more for a really nice aesthetic or a very high quality brand like FN. So who is the FN 509 for? Frankly, I think it's for left-handed shooters, somebody who really likes the brand FN or really prefers this aesthetic. I'd have no complaints carrying this as a duty gun. Like I mentioned in this video, with our comp that we're working on, it shoots very flat. Probably one of my favorite guns to shoot with 115 grain ammo. And I really like the grip texture. It just feels very comfortable to me, and I really enjoy shooting this gun. So if you're somebody who wants an all-purpose gun that could be a nightstand gun, a duty gun, potentially even a carry gun, I think it's a pretty good option. You're definitely gonna pay a little bit more. Keep that in mind. You're kind of paying for the name on this one, but I think it's a really good option, and it's definitely something you shouldn't overlook, especially if you're a left-handed shooter. Otherwise, if you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.